And I have the pleasure of introducing Sharon Soliday. Awesome business person, great friend, and single.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm not going to talk about Guatemala, so for those of you that might have been waiting for that. I was sitting in a 7th grade math class when someone walked in and said, okay, everyone is going to take a test, and the top 30 of 7th graders that take this test will take algebra in the 8th grade. The rest of you will be shuffled on to 8th grade general math. That was a big deal back then. So I thought to myself, I really need to be in that algebra class because I come from a very modest home. And my dad always told me, Sharon, whatever you put in your head, no one can take away. So education was going to be my ticket out. So 8th grade algebra it was. Test comes, we take it, the list goes up, of course, featuring all of our first and last names. And then there's a giant red line about 30 kids down. I kind of knew the test was hard. I probably wasn't in that top 30, but I go over to the list, I scan it, and I'm not in the top 30, and I keep scanning. I'm in the bottom third. Okay, well, clearly the test isn't going to get me into the class. So I go to the teacher and I say, hello, Mr. Hiley, I really want to be in 8th grade algebra next year. And he points to the list and he says, Soliday, you don't qualify. I don't exactly remember him even looking up from his desk. He goes, we can't put you there because you're likely going to fail. Fail. It was such a bad word when you were a kid. Now I embrace that failure. So I said, okay, to myself, clearly this man cannot get me into the class. He doesn't have the authority, so I'm going to go to the principal. So the next day, I had made an appointment. I walk in, and I said, hello, I would like to be in the 8th grade algebra class next year. Oh, yeah, well, hon, there's a test, and everybody's going to take the test, and then there's kind of a cutoff. I said, yeah, I know all about the test. We already took the test. I saw the red line. I'm below it, just a little. And because now I'm trying to make myself, the odds go up. And she says, oh, we can't put you in that class. It's not going to work out. And before I knew what was happening, she had left me in the echo of her heels. So I thought, well, that's only happening because I'm 12. If I wasn't 12, she would have really listened to me. So I'm going to go and get the last authority, my dad. So I go home and I said, Dad, I need you to come to school tomorrow and tell the school that I can take 8th grade algebra next year. That sounds hard, eat bologna sandwich. And I said, well, it probably will be hard. And he goes, are you sure you want to do that? I said, yeah, come on, raise the bar, Dad. So we go into the principal's office, and he's over 12, so she's got lots of time to chat with him, and says, okay, what can I help you with, Mr. Soliday? And he says, well, my daughter would like to take the 8th grade algebra class, and I would really like to have her in that 8th grade algebra class. So can you sign her up for that? And she goes, oh, unfortunately, she's below the line. And, she's speaking. I'm a speech pathologist now, so this is, even then, I kind of had destiny on what I was going to do because their syllables were very slow and long. She's not going to make it, and probably. And my dad stands there, and he looks at her, and he says, you know what? You're probably right. I bet she fails. I bet she fails fast. And I'm like thinking, this isn't really going the way I thought it should be going. I mean, I'm only 12, but... So I said nothing, and she's a little confused. And my dad said, what happens when she fails? And she says, well, then, we'd have to take her out of the algebra class and put her back into general math, which sounded like a prison in Guatemala, back into general math. And so he was quiet for a minute, and then he said, I accept that, like something had been offered. I accept that. And he says, I take responsibility. When she fails next year, I'll be totally fine that we move her down to 8th grade general math. Well, a few more things were said. conversation ended, I got into 8th grade algebra. We walk out, and my dad says, "Okay, see you later." And I said, "Well, can we pause just a moment here?" I'm clutching these awkward books. And I said, "Dad," I go, "why didn't you give me that boost of confidence? Why didn't you speak up for me?" And he says, "Did you get what you wanted?" I said, "Well, yeah, I got what I wanted." And he said, "Sharon, by the time I got involved," because you had tried to help yourself, "by the time I got involved, it had nothing to do with whether or not you were going to make it. It was all about the egos involved and what they thought would happen, because they had already made a decision. So why argue with that?" And it was the best business lesson my dad ever taught me, that whenever you see a red line, it's your opportunity to do something different, to reframe it, and to innovate, and to create something new. So flash forward, I ended up growing up, it happens, went to college and became a speech-language pathologist after graduate school, and started a little business with some other speech therapists and occupational therapists, and business is going great. I mean, it's fantastic. We're growing every year. I'm thinking, I don't have a background in business, but this stuff is easy. That was 2008. For those of you that don't recall, the economy itself was about to hand me a pretty massive red line. Within a matter of months, I was facing a situation where I had to have jobs for 20 people and I had none. So I stepped back and I thought, okay, what am I going to do? And so I innovated by creating a new service delivery model. And it paved the way to give the folks that I had currently employed opportunities that fall. But more importantly, what I didn't see coming is it really paved the way for the incredible growth that we've had in the last 8 years. And I'm very grateful for that. So things have been chugging along. Fast forward, here we are. And now I've got this great idea. Telemedicine has come of age, and I'm in a healthcare-related field. And no one out there is doing what I envision can be done with speech therapy. So you meet some really nice bankers, and you find your own money, and you invest a lot because you know you can scale and you know you can make this dream come true. And you've got a vision in your head. And it's somewhat of a red line because I have my own fear related to making this massive step. But then I remember that first day of 8th grade algebra. I walked into class, I sat down, I looked around, I'm like, wow, these are not my friends, these are all the smart kids. And I thought, okay, well, I'm here, I wanted to be here. And I proceeded to fail the Friday test every week for months. I didn't know what these other kids knew. So every Wednesday, maybe a little spite for the principal, every Wednesday I was in the class with the teacher taking the makeup exam. And you could never get better than a C. I was so happy with that. I was like, fine, that's great. So I then realized a few months went by and we got our first Friday exam and I got a C. I didn't fail. And by June, I had a B in the class. And so that's all I took. When I think about scaling and I think about the red line that's in front of me and the red line that's been put in front of me multiple times by other factors or individuals in terms of my business, it's that, you know what, it's just an opportunity that needs to be reframed. And that's what I want to pass on to you today. Don't let anyone tell you that your vision for you or your business or plans you may have can't be accomplished. You just have to think about it a little differently than perhaps anybody else would. Thank you.